Right. Hi, everyone. It's good to see you. And welcome to our Nakuona catch-up. Your hosts for today are Judith Bruce Goldin and, of course, myself, Sue Brown. Today, we are delighted to welcome not only you, our listeners, but Pauline Bailey, a visual artist, founder member of the Black Arts Forum, and a director of the charity Daughters of Africa. But before we start, housekeeping. This is a 40-minute Zoom session, which will be recorded and uploaded as highlights on our Nakuona website for all those who weren't able to attend today, but also for the documentation of this event.
Lovely. And for this session, the visual and the cameras will be muted, but at the end of the session, you will use the catch up button if you have any questions that you'd like to ask Pauline. So we're excited to have Pauline here today. She'll be telling us all about her journey. So yes, please do use the chat button if you have any questions.
Mm-hmm. Also, our Nakuona Code of Conduct is, we aim to maintain a safe and positive space where we encourage oneness with respect to others at all times. Nakuona.
Nakuona.
So, before we start, we're going to have our 30-second silence in remembrance of all those who have passed on, our ancestors, our families, our friends, our unknowns.
Okay, before I really get into everything, or what I was going to say, I felt that I needed to respond to the Jacob Blake shooting after the unprecedented worldwide protest from the murder of George Floyd a few months ago. It's pretty horrific that we're still seeing our members of the Black community just being killed like they're nothing. But wanting to keep everything positive, I decided that the poem that I would read would be Still I Rise from Maya Angelou, because it's now as it was when she wrote it in 1978, I think it was. And, I think it's one of her most famous poems. And it was written in the spirit of resistance, resilience, strength and beauty, particularly Black beauty. So I can't promise to read it and perform it the way she would, but I'll try and read it as clearly as possible, because she was phenomenal, as her other poem said. So Still I Rise. You may write me down in history with your bitter, twisted lies. You may tread me in the very dirt, but still, like dust, I'll rise. Does my sassiness upset you? Why are you beset with gloom? 'Cause I walk like I've got oil wells pumping in my living room. Just like moons and like suns, with the certainty of tides, just like hopes springing high, still I'll rise. Did you want to see me broken? Bowed head and lowered eyes, shoulders falling down like teardrops, weakened by my soulful cries. Does my heightiness offend you? Don't you take it awful hard, 'cause I laugh like I've got gold mines digging in my own backyard. You may shoot me with your words, you may cut me with your eyes, You may kill me with your hatefulness, but still, like air, I rise. Does my sexiness upset you? Does it come as a surprise that I dance like I've got diamonds at the meeting of my thighs? Out of the hut's history's shame, I rise. Up from the past that's rooted in pain, I rise. I'm a black ocean leaping and wide, welling and swelling I bear in the tide. Leaving behind nights of terror and fear, I rise. Into a daybreak that's wondrously clear, I rise. Bringing the gifts that my ancestors gave, I am the dream and the hope of the slave. I rise, I rise, I rise. So I just thought I would share that with you as a way of reminding us of our resilience, because we've gone through so much and it's a very, very difficult time. And I think that, I was invited to talk about what's on my mind. Well, I could have talked about all sorts of things. And I have to say that I struggle to think about what to talk about because I have so many things on my mind right now. But I felt that because of the shooting, I could not come today and not say anything about it. Of course. Because it has whether you want to think of it as an indirect or a direct impact on all of us as a people, because I just don't know when it's going to stop. Is it ever going to stop, you know? But I wanted to just kind of think about, despite the adversity and despite everything that we've gone through, we are still here. We still stand. And there's a resilience that we have as a people that we have to keep reminding ourselves about. You know, it's what keeps us going. In the face of any kind of adversity, we just keep going.
Of course.
And, you know, I mean, throughout the whole of this crazy period, and even before, one of my stock sayings is there's, you know, it's infinite possibilities, but will I keep it moving? Yes. Keep it moving forward. Of course. So that was kind of why I decided to read the poem.
Well, thank you for that. And, you know, and I'm sure it's a discussion that many of us, just before this, Judith and I were talking about the same thing. Maybe we'll be able to return to this a little bit in this session here. But yeah, thank you. And we are rising. We do rise, and we will continue to rise. As my dad says, they've never met us, so it's not their right to get rid of us. You know what I'm saying? So
yeah, indeed.
There is a reason for everything. However,
how much they try, they can't manage it.
No, because that's not part of the bigger plan. Yeah. Anyways, like I says, welcome Pauline Bailey to our Nakuona catch-up. Well, on the 1st of February this year, we celebrated the achievements of the female business and community leaders within our city, Birmingham, of African and Caribbean heritage. And one of our change makers was Pauline Bailey. And so, since then, a lot has happened. Unprecedented madness, I would say, in our lifetime and generation. However, you know, enough has happened. So basically, what has happened since receiving your award, which I can just see there, and in your personal life, as well as your professional life?
Okay, because my professional life takes up so much of my life, I don't have much of a personal life. No, that's not true. So in my professional life, well, as you know, shortly after the awards night, we had, I was quite busy developing the artist residency, at the Legacy Centre of Excellence, plus, you know, continuing to look for artists and scout for artists through BAF, Black Arts Forum. So the artist residency was actually it's a collaboration between Legacy and Black Arts Forum. And in the process of doing that, I partnered up with Josie Forrest Tennant, who is the development manager for Outside In. It's a visual arts organisation that's really trying to support, or it has over the years supported visual artists who experience significant barriers to their practice. So it doesn't matter whether they went to art school or whether they're self-taught or where they've come from. It doesn't matter whether they have an illness or disability of some kind. It was basically any kind of significant barrier, or even if you felt invisible and were isolated. And I thought that I would, because Josie and I have worked together before, as some of you may already know, but we felt that it's in the spirit of what our practice is about. Because we're not just visual artists, we're also visual artists that are involved in trying to make a difference in organisations or forming organisations that can support artists. Now, while BAF is kind of dealing with lots of different art forms, well, all the art forms really, my position, if you like, is more about driving the visual arts. And it's a difficult sector to be in, and because of Black Arts Forum, I've tried to make it my business to forge various partnerships, because in this day and age, it's the only way to get things done, really. Because it's all very well, we're all struggling in our own little corners, but when it comes to trying to make a difference or make things happen, you need to collaborate, and collaboration and partnership is something I find easy. So I've also been part of the Contemporary Visual Arts Network, which there's an East Midlands and a West Midlands, well, it's a national organisation really, but I'm part of the West Midlands one. And so I was invited to be part of the think tank or round table looking at a fair wage for artists. However, COVID put the block on that. We've not had any other meetings since, because it's obviously because of the pandemic, everyone's resources and funding and everything else has that's been the focus. So I think all of us, even though our language has changed, the way we use the word bubble, the way we use lockdown, it's just changed everything. So I haven't been able to curate any more exhibitions, that I was in the middle of doing. However, we've been looking at ways to do that online. So I haven't finished that yet, I haven't made as much progress as I would like to have done. But I've been looking at ways to make the websites more immersive and more interactive, and perhaps have a virtual gallery, although it's never the same as seeing the actual work itself. So that's all been going on in the background. We've been, as I said, sort of beavering away trying to get applications finished and meet deadlines for funding in order for us to deliver projects that we wanted to do and deliver or change the nature of the projects that we were doing. So because both organisations, or both buildings have had to close down or had to shut, there wasn't really much happening in terms of events. But BAF, even though we weren't in the building, or we're not really in the building, we've been able to get a couple of projects online. And as you probably know, we've been, the Elders project has continued. We've managed to find ways to engage our elders, and we will continue to do that, because older people don't always get a chance to engage in the arts. And we have a lot of talented people out there, and it shouldn't just be a focus on the young. I think the middle-aged and older people. And particularly because we support, in terms of BAF, although we are looking at different art forms and we're supporting all kinds of different artists, our main focus is primarily Black women. It just happened to have been that by default. So we don't make a song and dance about it, it just is. But we work with everybody and we serve lots of communities. So
I think, Pauline, with since your award, and I know, because we're going to go and talk about more of what you're saying here, I just want to know, within your own life, your own personal, without getting too personal,
Mhm.
you know what I'm saying? Just having the award, how did that make you feel? You know, in that sense, and you know, having the award and your family, etc. You are wearing our pin, and etc. etc. So, because we're going to move on to Judith, and she's going to ask you a few questions about, you know, what you've been doing. So on that.
Okay. Well, I mean, when I was nominated, I was quite flattered because I've never really won any awards before. I tell a lie. I won when I was working at South Birmingham College. I once got an award for the best dressed lecturer.
Oh,
You know, my style. You know, not the work I've been doing with the students, but anyway, I was grateful for it nonetheless. At least it was some recognition.
Yeah.
But I was truly honoured because I've never really thought about it. I've never thought of myself as a change maker. I just do. I don't really spend any time focusing on it. I just keep moving and making things happen where I can and make my little contribution. So I was extremely flattered and honoured. And it was amazing to be in the room with so many talented and committed women who are doing so much. And I've always felt that we can often be invisible. So this was timely. And, you know, the name of the award, the name of the whole Nakuona, it was just amazing. And it gave me an opportunity to network with some other women who were doing things. I mean, I think that because it was a women's award, it's a shame that there weren't more men there. There weren't a few men there supporting their women, but I just felt really flattered. I felt honoured to have had an opportunity to talk a little bit about what I do. And it was just great to get the recognition, because like I said, I've never won anything before. I've never been nominated for anything before. I just quietly beaver away in the background and get on with that.
Especially as women, as Black women, but we tend to keep in the background. And that was one of the main reasons why Nakuona, you know, we had this event. And I've known you, you know, for quite a while, and you were one of my biggest inspiration, as you know. Oh gosh. And so this was your award, this was your time.
I'm most grateful for it. It was really appreciated.
Yeah, I know. Judy?
Yes, well, you know, it is inspiring having you here. And I think just seeing how you describe yourself as just getting on with it and just working away. And it's that sort of, you're not looking for recognition, but the fact is that we see you and the work, the impact that you're making in the community. And I think sometimes it's important to just acknowledge that and just say, look, keep going, because it's a hard journey. I'm just going to talk about some of the things that you are involved in. I'm going to read them out because you've probably got your fingers in so many pies. This is not going to give it justice. You're currently on the management committee and leading developments on a visual arts program at the New Legacy Centre of Excellence, which was formerly the Drum, having just launched their 12-month artist residency program, which is brilliant. You're also a founding member of the Black Arts Forum, short for BAF. In your own profession, you are a freelance visual artist. You're also a promoter of youth and community development through your own work and also through your charity, which we'll come on to. And the thing that I'm really excited to hear about is that you co-founded the Gambia Daughters of Africa Foundation, where you've worked with your Gambian partners to deliver a range of projects in 8 areas across the Greater Combo region. And you do this at least twice a year. So that's probably just the icing on what you do. But to me, that's a woman at work, woman on a mission, a woman with a focus. And, you know, I hope that over the next 5 to 10 years, that trickle effect will, you know, impact on so many people's lives. And I think sometimes when we're actually in the action, we don't really see what impact we're making. So you've chosen your 3 personal insights to discuss. Can you tell us a little bit about those insights from your journey to date?
Okay. Um, well, in terms of my journey, I've always been a kind of organizer, or I suppose I have always been a leader, even when I was a child. You know, like with my siblings and my other counterparts, it was always me organizing everybody else, and trying to get people to sort of do things. I mean, some might say I was a bit bossy as a child, um, but I think it served me well in my professional life, I would like to think. And as much as I'd like to think that I'm not an autocratic type of leader, I do prefer to work collaboratively. So much so that as a visual artist, I've not to date had a solo exhibition. I've always exhibited with others, because I kind of I'll create an exhibition or curate an exhibition, and if it may have some of my work and other people's work, but I realized I'd never actually, this was last year, I realized that I've never had a solo exhibition. So that is one of my quests, and before I shuffle off this mortal coil, I hope to have that. I was in the process of getting there before, this whole pandemic thing happened. But I've always done some form of youth and community development, and it doesn't matter what role I have, whether I've worked as a lecturer, as a mentor, as a coach, it's always been about supporting other people. I guess that's become my purpose. Don't get me wrong, there are times when it gets in the way, and I kind of resent the fact that I haven't done as much of my own stuff as I feel I should do. But I think that's sometimes when ego gets in the way to some extent. I know that I have to have my own personal creativity, because that helps me, in a way, manage my well-being, because I'm a creative person. If I don't get a chance to be creative, then something doesn't sit well. And it can, if you don't address it, lead to dis-ease. So I've always been creative. I've always done some sort of community engagement, whether it's with young people, older people, schools, whatever, prisons, detention centres, all over the place. And one of the things that I suppose I'm a bit like a dog with a bone. I'm very task driven, so once I start something, I have to see it through to the end. Even, to my detriment sometimes. I don't give up very easily. So some would call that stubbornness. I call it determination. What is it? I think my mum would say that, like, she's too determined. Right. Stop saying stubborn now. She's too determined. Anyway, so the journey has been a very interesting one. I think throughout all of them, I've had to be resilient. I've had to be steadfast in what I'm doing and believe that it's going to work. I have to have faith that it's going to work somehow. I've always known that it's not going to be easy necessarily, although some things have come easily. I go into a meeting expecting it to be difficult and expecting resistance. And there's been a couple of meetings where it's been so easy, I've kind of like, oh, wow. What happened there, But I think throughout all that time, it's always been about redressing the balance. Yeah. And one of the reasons why I got involved in setting up the Daughters of Africa Foundation in the Gambia with my counterpart who lives in London, Adiria Gimre, was partly because I reached a point here in this country where I felt that I couldn't really I couldn't do anything else. I felt unemployable. I felt, I've tried everything. I've tried developing networks. I'd reached a point, and it was about I think it was also, things really accelerated when the drum was about to close. So that was a really interesting time. So that year we formally registered Daughters of Africa as a foundation, as a charity. because both myself and Adiri had been doing the same kind of work. Hers was more focused on youth work, youth training youth workers, and safeguarding with children and young people, and doing a lot of youth work. I left more youth work-based activities a long time ago, but I was sort of doing a lot of engagement in other ways and through the visual arts, because that's where I feel passionate, and that's my area of specialism. So we set it up, and I don't know, we just took a leap of faith, because we didn't know whether it was going to work. We didn't know whether all the relationships that we'd built over the years and coming together and fusing those together we just didn't know whether it was going to work. We did some leadership training out there in the Gambia, and amongst some community leaders, and these are all people who either have their own business, their own charity, or some other organization that was, they were kind of working in their community, but it's in the urban area, not where the tourists are. Because that's the other thing, people go over there and do things in the rural area thinking that the urban areas are fine, but actually they need a lot of support. And so we did the training, and these guys decided that they wanted to form a committee and be part of Daughters of Africa Foundation. Those were our first angels. Because they were committed to us and the organisation and making things happen while they're still running their own over there. And I have to give thanks for WhatsApp. Sometimes it can be a curse, but sometimes, in this case, it's definitely our blessing, because we can talk to people every day. We can manage the foundation from here and keep our energy there when we're not there. We have one of the members of the committee who had worked with an international NGO before, so he was had the management skills to be able to coordinate everybody else. They chose their roles. They voted him in as project manager, program manager. We've got a secretary. We've got, all those roles. So we have someone who can keep an eye on the finances as well. The little that we have when it comes in. And they basically keep us connected to the communities there. So we have, of course, I went out there and forged all these partnerships that over and above what we'd already forged. So we now have a memorandum of understanding with the National Centre of Arts and Culture, which is like their arts council here. So they're responsible for museums and monuments. We have a partnership with the Ministry of Education. We have a partnership with the university, there's only one university out there. So the University of the Gambia, we have a partnership with them. And also St. Peter's School, which has about 3,500 pupils. So we don't really care about the school, but we work with the pupils.
Yeah.
It's been an interesting journey. It's been interesting learning. It's been a very, very steep learning curve, even though we've been out there for doing things for some time. When we're there every day, we're quietly contemplating murder, because there's a way to do things out there, and it's a very patriarchal society. So I have to give thanks for Adiri, because she's Nigerian. Her family's from Nigeria, and so she has a slightly different understanding and sensibility, or I should say patience, really, than I have. So we kind of play good cop, bad cop when it's appropriate. And when we need to, we send Mr. Famra Fati in as our project manager, because sometimes a male face is what they want to see.
Yes.
So throughout this whole journey, whether it's Daughters of Africa Foundation, whether it's BAF, I've had to learn how to strategize, how to deal with people on different levels. In everything I do, I start with where people are at. And if they happen to be at a place where they need a little bit of a leg up, then I try and provide that. And if not me, I'll signpost them to somewhere else.
It's been that knowing you for the length of time that I've known you, I think that is part of who you are. You, like you said, you work well with teams, you work well with individuals on a smaller basis. I would say one thing though, in all the things that you're doing, what would you say you have learnt from that experience that you would say that you would bring here? You know, working abroad, working with fundamentally our heritage, our lineage, our people. But what would you say you have learned about working there, and something that you could share with us here?
I think listen to your inner voice. We're socialized out of trusting our intuition and our inner voice.
Okay.
And I think you have to have confidence in your choices. You know, even if it turns out to be the wrong choice, it was the right choice at the time.
Yeah.
And you've got to trust that really there's no such thing as failure. You know, because even if something doesn't go the way you planned it or hoped it would, there's always a learning in that process. Always a learning. And I mean, with the Daughters of Africa Foundation, that was very fast. It felt like a runaway train at first, because everything was happening so quickly, and we were, you know, partnerships were coming up and all the rest of it, and projects were happening, and we started off doing one project and working in one area, then it was 2 areas, and then suddenly it went from 3 areas to 8, you know, and we had to just go with the flow, you know. But at the root of it all, it's good relationships. Without good relationships and good management, you're going to fail. You'll fail at what you are reaching your goals. You'll be constantly striving for that, you know. So you have to see those things as you know, you have to learn from any of those things, any of the things that we often see as failures or mistakes. But I think trusting in your own voice, listening to yourself, being resilient and steadfast, you know, in what you're doing.
Yeah, you know, Judith and I, with the Nakuona, you know, it just feels like we just started the other day, and exactly what you're saying, having that trust.
Yeah.
You know.
And that we're on the same lines, as in, I think the thing that struck me, which I thank you for sharing as well, Pauline, is just how you got to the point where you mentioned the word unemployable.
Yes.
And to think a woman of your knowledge, your intelligence, your experience, you talked about being a collaborator, a bonder, a bridger, someone who goes out there who's and then you get to the point where you're spent.
Yes.
But what I like about your journey is that you get to that barrier, and then you have another idea and think, something comes to you to think, let me expand my thinking, let me expand my vision. Because you could have stayed there feeling resentful about everything that you've studied for, your hard work, and then it's just come to nothing. But it's like you mentioned, that it's almost like a call from the ancestors to say, we're here.
Yes.
We need your brain, we need your presence, we need your tools that you've learned. Please use them over here. And to me, that what I would take away is just having that spirit of, the world is ours. And we as long as we have the tools, it's having that mindset to see that we can travel, we've learned, we've got the tools to build anywhere in this world. And another point is where you mentioned, if you're not using you're not expressing your own talents, the disease and the disease of that, and that's, to me, that's very powerful. And just how important as people, and I suppose as an artist, a visual artist, you need to make sure that expression is continually being generated and developed.
I think that particularly in this time, all of us, whether you see yourself as creative or not, all of us have to think about our mental health and well-being, because this is such a bizarre, surreal time where you're doing, those of us that are still working or self-employed, whatever, even if you're not, you know, I mean, we're having so many things that we're having to worry about. It's a time where you've got a plan, but you can't quite plan. Everything is up in the air. And I can't remember if it was either of you that I mentioned it to, my because I had a little bit of Arts Council money to develop my creative practice, and my project was called Liminal States. Little did I know that we were going to end up in a liminal time, because we're in a period where we're not quite where we were, but we're not quite where we need to be.
Yeah.
Sort of in this state of limbo where, you know, buildings can sort of open but restricted. Do you know what I mean? It's like the cultural sector has suffered greatly, and like a lot of people, when lockdown happened, that was it. I suddenly thought, oh, okay, what happens now? I can't earn a living, I can't, you know. But rather than focus on that, I just thought, okay, there's no point in worrying about what I have no control over. So let me do something else. So we started to look at how we could keep the energy in the Gambia on and going by doing online activities and online courses. I mean, the technology there isn't the connection there isn't as good as it should be. But you know, I've just set up a chess program with Asante, the Chess Academy. So he's teaching a couple of our youth leaders there, who are then going to teach the youth, as members of the Youth Association. And then when we go out at the end of the year, we'll have a tournament. Yeah. Hopefully leading to, fingers crossed, leading to a tournament. You know, there's been an accountancy course that's been online and running for a while. So we, you know, someone's donated 10 PCs that have been revamped and had all the software put on that, you know, will help the young people to do their research and study and so on and so forth. So those can go in our headquarters. Do you know what I mean? So we've been able to keep, it's been a struggle, but we've been able to keep things going. You know, we've been able to put some of the BAF stuff online. I haven't been able to do much with Legacy, because that's been mostly events driven, and they're about to have the Black Pound Day.
Yes.
So anybody that hasn't booked, please book.
Is it the 5th of September?
It's the 5th of September, yes. So it's really been about I just decided to just think about rather than what I can't do, what I can do. And just diverted my energies and my attention to all those other things. So in between trying to work at home, you know, having the grandkids when lockdown eased up a little bit, I've done loads of stuff in my garden. I've been having work done on my house. It's just been a complete mayhem. And I actually feel like I need to just go away somewhere and have some quiet reflection time that I was begging for when lockdown happened and thought I was going to get, and it hasn't happened. Yeah. It's been really intense. And I've also, you know, because I've been involved in this More Than a Moment thing, with Cultural Central, who are trying to develop a pledge to make some of the white institutions accountable for their, you know, equalities and diversity activity. That's also been quite intense. So I need some downtime, really, so that I can then recharge my batteries and then come again with whatever it is we're going to be doing in 2021.
Totally agree.
Oh,
I don't think 2020 is how anybody expected it to be.
I know. Well, Pauline, yeah. I just want to say thank you for sharing your pearls of wisdom with us. And Sue, we're going to have just some time. Sue, do you want to share your takeaway from? Okay,
well, like I said, the takeaway for me is that we are, as a people, resilient. You know, 2020 has been, we didn't see it coming. We never see anything coming, but things happen, and how we deal with it, how we recognize it, you know, helps us to, you know, make our way through whatever the situation is. And I can see that with you. Like I said, you know, I've known you a while, Pauline, and yeah, when sometimes we get knocked back, yeah, you know, there's that toy, sometimes you get knocked back and then it just pops back up again.
Yeah.
And then we just come back up again. And I see that with you. However, sometimes we need to have that rest as well, because it is part of our well-being, you know. And you know, you have been an inspiration, and there are many out there who would say that too, and we're honored. We are honored, and we're honored that you're here today with us for this.
Thank you.
Yes.
So we'd like to open it up. So Elaine, if you would like to show your videos, it's up to you. Or if you'd like to ask any questions to Pauline.
No, it's just I want to agree with Sue in bigging up. Sorry, I had to have a bit. Pauline's resilience,
Yes.
and I would like to add to that she has shown insight and determination in her work, and you are an inspiration, Pauline. I'm going away from this meeting with hope in the heart and plans for the future.
Oh, it's fantastic. Thank you, Elaine. Thank you.
Okay. Barrington, is he still here?
I am.
Yes.
Can you see me?
No, we can't.
Yet.
Hi, Barrington. It's been a long time.
Hello, Pauline.
Do you want to try and start? Yes, we'll see you in a minute.
Hi.
I did click on that button before, but what can I say about myself and technology? Absolutely lovely to see you again, P.
It's good to
Wonderful
see you.
to see you. It's kind of weird, traveling journeys with all of yourselves here. And in terms of this is your time, your day, your Nakuma's recognition of your achievements, and I'd say your existence, because if we don't exist, we can't achieve. And I think that's what I'm getting out of what you've said, that we often are beating up ourselves, self included. I'm always wondering, am I doing enough? Have I done enough? Well, as you say, there's so much to do, and I think there lies the challenge in trying to consolidate ourselves. Maybe if somebody could consolidate me, I might be in a different place, but I am where I am, like all of us.
Yeah.
But yeah, COVID in its own weird way has provided us, I think, with a fantastic opportunity to kind of stop, little by choice, but then in terms of embracing that choice, not just reflecting on where we're at, seeing how far we've gone, because I think there's always that thing about, like I said, not having achieved enough, and looking at what's happening to our people, to us still, individually, community-wise, the decimation that's happening with the arts, the attack on the arts, I'd say, I see it as an attack, and it always seems like the arts has always been the kind of soft option to just kind of have a go at, and we're all artists here, one kind or another. And I think it was Judith mentioned earlier on about, I think it was Judith that mentioned about creativity. We're immensely creative and productive with that creation, because for me, the bottom line, as I said, is people talk about a range of things in life, but for me, if you're black and alive, and I'm not talking about, if you passed away as a result of whatever might have taken you, but if you're here on the Creator's earth and you're able to get up every day and function, do something, you're a success. And I think we need to recognize that, because ironically, just before I came online, so I was trying to do my hectic routine of exercise and try and keep fit. Anyway, I was listening to Radio 4 in the background, and I was trying to do my exercise and listen to Radio 4. Anyway, there was a significant program, and I don't know, I'd have to look back on the listings, but it was talking about British Museum and other museums, and about artifacts that belong to our people as well as other people around the globe, but the focus on on our people, as in those of African diaspora. And they were talking about the Benin collection in the British Museum, and they were saying about how with the Black Lives Matter, the British Museum came out with a very strong statement of support, blah, blah, blah. And people began to kind of raise queries, put it diplomatically, on Twitter, saying, I think the undertone was, you know, you're saying this, but you've kind of got all our artifacts there as hostage. So the program was trying to look at people's ways, the ways that people and institutions are trying to move forward, to, for want of a better term, a bit of a pun, to free up some of our artifacts back to their homelands. But within that, there was still that kind of colonial strings in terms of how things were being managed and governed in that light. So a lot of what you've said has resonated, and including the phrase disease. I've looked at that word recently in a different light. I can't remember who sparked the thought about, you know, dis and ease, that if your body, if your mind, your soul isn't at ease, it is then going to create, you know, the European term disease. You know, you're going to have all kinds of ailments and so on. So phenomenal the work you do, you know. I find it interesting that you said that you had kind of had time, which doesn't surprise me, to have done an exhibition of your own, you know. But you know what? Just the snippet that Judith read out of your CV, or that Sue read out of your CV, you know, how much can one person do? Can only do so much, and it sounds like most of us are doing a lot.
Yeah.
And when I say that, I don't take anything from the person who gets up and just goes to work and comes back. That person as well is doing a lot, because when we look at the racist structures that still exist, you know, I forever refer to the you know, as it was called, the bin men strike. And people, because I always say to people about, when it comes to, and I don't even like using that term, okay, just to try and get it into context, the ancillary staff wherever I've worked, cleaners, caretakers, whatever. Well, people have always been surprised that I know their name and I know a bit about these people. And I say, well, I don't see any difference between what they do and what I do. And I've often referred to about the bin strike, that when those guys went on strike, I think it was in the 70s, even the army couldn't shift the rubbish, you know? So I'm saying that to illustrate that all too often we underestimate what's termed as the basics of life. That in terms of our culture, what we face, what we're still facing, just to do the basics. And I can't remember whether it was either Malcolm X or Martin Luther King, when a reporter challenged one of them, saying about, I think the term in inverted commas was, what was the Negro's contribution? And they retorted along the lines of, when you're busy with, you know, trying to stop your house from being burnt down by certain people, certain organizations, you know, who have that hatred against you, and in too many respects we still face that, you know. We're still trying to save the base, our homes, our families, our communities, from being burnt, from being terrorized, with the structures that exist, and it's hard. It's so hard.
And I think, even as you're saying that, I think one of the keys to that is thinking outside the box, thinking outside the framework, thinking outside the structure. And I think that's what you're doing, Pauline.
Yeah.
You've seen that, okay, there's challenges, but what else can I do? And I think it's seen that the box may be like that, but you can look over, you can go that side, side, and it's navigating our own ways. So it's true what you're saying, Barrington, and it's also true that, you know, whether these structures, you know, are so embedded that they can't change, or do we find another way? Do artists, you know, Pauline's finding her ways, and that impact might need a big impact in the Gambia, and then it might come full circle round to the UK. They could, you know,
like it did in the beginning.
yeah.
We started Africa first, and then the rest of the world. Basically, before we wrap this up, Barrington, you know, basically what you're saying, I hear you also. And with this Nakuona, as it means I see you, it's about seeing ourselves, recognizing ourselves first. You know, so it comes back to recognizing who we are and trying to own who we are. Everybody else tries to own us. We need to take hold of who we are. Yeah, and this Nakuona catch up is what we're doing. We're saying, okay, Pauline, we don't own you, but you are us, and we are you.
Your
and
success.
share that amongst each other. You know, and
well, like your I don't want to call it a strapman, but that's the best phrase I can come up with. As you're saying, not ownership, but I see you.
Yes.
You know, I see you. You know, and many of us we're not seen, so we've got to see ourselves. We've got to see each other.
Yeah, they have to do. We have to do what we have to do. But once again, Pauline, thank you, my sister.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. And before we wrap up, and I said this already, but before we wrap up, I know you have an event, and we've only got about a minute left. Coming up, Roots and Branches. You know.
Yes.
When we can go and see that. I know something's happening on the 3rd, but you know, afterwards they can.
Well, this is the other organisation that I'm the founder member of, Hands Earth Creative, and it's a community arts organisation that works with primarily Hanswothian artists. But I mean, we actually do work across the region, but it's mostly this arts trail that myself and Jan Kimber set up. We started a temporary one in 2015, and it was quite successful. So we put in a bid to the Arts Council, and they gave us the funding to do a 3-year project. So on the 3rd of September at 11 o'clock, I know it's an odd time, but at 11 o'clock, we're launching the last sculptural piece, which is Roots and Branches, and it's kind of on the Hinstock Road entrance. It's near there. Sorry, yeah, it's near the cricket, not too far from the cricket ground. It's obviously in these COVID times, we're only allowed a limited number of people, even though and we have to have it outside, because normally we would have it in the Sons of Rest building, and we would do some workshops, and we would have presentation and so on and so forth. But this is an opportunity to at least finally, after all the delays, launch the final piece, and made by Tim Tolkien and Graham, oh gosh, I've forgotten Graham's surname. Anyway, the local artist. Well, Graham certainly used to live in Handsworth or by Handsworth Park. So we're launching that on next Thursday, the 3rd of September at 11 o'clock. It will only be a very short, sort of 45 minute event. But what we're trying to do is to encourage as many people as possible to go and visit the park, visit the piece, have a walk around the park and see the rest of the arts trail. Because there are several other pieces, including the pieces that were there before we did this new arts trail. So there's quite a few pieces commissioned in Handsworth Park. And just tell your friends and family about it, you know. Whenever Simmer Down happens, or I don't know, Gost Fest, and some of the other events that take place in Handsworth Park, you know, that can be an opportunity to go and look at it.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Pauline.
Okay.
So our next steps to finish off. Do you want to share Sue, about the next steps, or what update?
Okay, the next step. So we've just finished as Nakuona, we've just finished our Cornerstone project with well, and that was a project, storytelling project, that took place on Zoom, and a calypso ditty song was produced from that, and we will let you know more about that on our website. What else? Is that it?
Yeah, I think that's it.
That's it, really. Yeah.
And
There's other things, but
yeah,
please look at our website.
Yeah.
if I can remember, www.nakuona.org.uk. Yeah,
That's right.
I'm getting there. Yeah.
And then on our last note, I mean, I've been so into looking at proverbs and sayings. So just to end out, one of the Swahili proverb or a saying is 1,000 begins with one. So
very true. I like that one.
I like that one.
Simple, but
take away for everyone to take away now. 1,000. Try and use it at least once today in a conversation.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's one of those that I'll probably use a lot of, actually. Just one.
Let's see if we can use it today. That would be really nice. And if you do, text each other, say, I did it, I did it. Yeah, I think that would. Yeah?
Yes, indeed.
Once again, thank you all. Thank you.
Thank you, Pauline. Nakuona.
Thank you.
Look forward to catching up.
Is this going on your website? It is, isn't it?
Yes, yeah.
Okay. All right.
Everyone.
Nakuona.
Nakuona, Elaine.
All right.
Sorry, we can't see you.
I know.
Every success.
Yeah.
Okay.
And see you.
Bye, everyone.
Starts with one.
Okay.
Each and every one of us.
Yes.
Thanks, Elaine. Take care,
Thanks,
everyone.
Elaine. Take care.
In the meeting.
Take care.
Bye.
Until 6
My pleasure being here.
Yes, as always.